All right, we're back, and we first video would have been on radar, kind of explaining essentially how it works. Remember, it's going to be radar is that radio detection and ranging using what's called UHF, or in essence ultra high frequency frequencies. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to talk about is LIDAR, because it's kind of like the next step. Talk a little bit about the differences between radar and LIDAR. But LIDAR itself is also an acronym. Surprise, surprise, right? So basically LIDAR is light and detection Una vez más. Okay, we're back, and the first video should have been that you should have watched. Would have been on radar, kind of what it is, the very, very basics of it. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go out and actually demonstrate, let you guys kind of play with it, and really know how to use these things this year, just because of circumstances with the coronavirus. But we're going to do our best here to help explain it. So either way, radar as a review is your radio detection and ranging. Okay, it uses the different frequencies. It uses high or ultra high, frequencies, ultra high frequencies, UHF, sends those out, kind of a broad casting of that frequency, and we'll talk about that in contrast to what we talked about with LIDAR today. So LIDAR, once again, surprise, surprise, is an acronym, because we love to use acronyms. So either way, it's light, detection, and ranging, just like very similar to the whole acronym for radar. But here's the difference. All right, so if radar uses the UHF, the ultra high frequency waves, and remember my lovely diagram that I have for the first video, we had this, and so it gets broader as it goes. The lovely part about LIDAR is that we have, so same squad car, except what you're doing is you're sending out a laser or a light. So even though it's got a frequency, that's really what it is frequency of waves. Okay, due to the use of light, it is able to stay much more be much more narrow, or narrower I should say, than what radar is. It's much more specific. So for example, for every 1,000 feet, LIDAR only varies 12 inches, or in essence 1 foot. Okay, so take that over 3,000 feet, it's only varying 3 feet or a yard. That's pretty specific. So that's the advantage of using LIDAR. Although you can use radar in rain, LIDAR if you're ever going to need to use it, or inclement weather, fog, etc. If you choose to do those things in that type of weather, LIDAR is your better bet. Plus, the other thing you can do is, in congested traffic, say especially working interstates where I was at, you'd have traffic coming and going. You'd have multiple lanes of traffic. I know some of your larger cities have the same thing. And yes, there are systems where radar can divide different frequencies that are coming back as different vehicles. But the benefit of using LIDAR is that you get to specifically select a vehicle. So what I would recommend, and what I was taught and trained to do, is on the front of a car, depends on where you're set up. So if you are down on the ground level, you can aim for a grill, or more specifically, you can aim, if it's close enough to where you can see it, you can actually aim at a license plate, for instance. That would actually come back to you really easily. If you're up on an overpass, you can put it up on the hood of a car, or what I really would recommend though is more so the windshield, because you are putting it down at an angle from the overpass, and even though the windshield is obviously angled, for the car itself, it's angled more towards you, so it's almost like a straight line. It's like this, like I said, it's the front of a car. Okay, you are pointing down with your LIDAR detector, because I've honestly never seen a LIDAR detector that was not handheld. They may have them that are in cars, but the vast majority I've ever seen, used, etc., were all handheld. So you would be aiming and using this, emitting your light here, and see how, even though that's at an angle, you're also at an angle, so it's going to come right back to you. Okay, so that's an advantage of LIDAR. More specific, longer range, because this right here, it's not gonna, there will be some variation. Like I said, every 1,000 feet, it varies about 12 inches, okay? So, but with radar, you get a lot more of a dispersed signal, okay? So there are some disadvantages to radar and advantages of the LIDAR. Those are kind of the big points I want to make with it, as far as understanding the difference and how you would use them, the benefits of them. And a lot of times what we would end up doing for state police, if we had some type of detail that we were doing, in essence, you are designated a given area for a specific amount of time. And whether it be, if we were running speed, for instance, what we would do is we would have a sergeant or a supervisor up on an overpass, and they would be using the radar. They'd say, okay, I have a white Ford F-150. They won't be able to read the license plate and all that, but they'll give a vehicle description, traveling, say, northbound, okay, and they will give you the speed that it was going. So say it's a 65 mile an hour speed limit or zone, and that individual is going 90 miles an hour. They get on the radio, say, hey, 643, we have a white Ford pickup going northbound on I-65 north, and it has a speed of 90 miles per hour. So, and then we would be sitting on the ramp, in essence, or at least off to where we could take an entrance ramp, get onto the interstate, make stops that way. I used it individually as well, but it is definitely much more effective for the purposes that we used it for. I use both radar and LIDAR, but I preferred LIDAR, so that's a personal preference. Different people more familiar with different types of operations and different equipment may have other preferences. But as for right now, I just want to get you, like I said, the gist of what radar and LIDAR, the simple differences. And LIDAR that we have for here, I guess I'll show you this, it's similar to what we have with the radar as far as the setup. Once again, this is a stalker, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but it has two lenses here, okay? Basically, one sends out a signal, the other detects it when it comes back, okay? We can use this part here, similar to what you would use if you want to call it like a scope, okay? It's very basic. It's not really, it doesn't have any magnifier in there, but it gives you, it's a display. And in fact, you have your display here that indicates speed, range down here in a digital sense, but also up here, it will give you information as well. So it acts like a reticle, okay? So, all right, same way with most of these, as far as how it would actually go on.